Hello, my name is Chris, and welcome to our 6th instructional video tutorial on CSC 151, an introduction to Java programming. For our 6th video, we'll be going over methods, how to define methods, and how to create constructors as well as scope. What are methods? We've seen and used a few methods before. We know that when we create a class file in Eclipse, it creates the default main method, and we use methods when we've called upon Scanner to get user input or get a random number. Methods are a collection of statements that are grouped together and then, when needed, are called upon by the program. When creating a method, you can use any legal identifier to name it. Methods also help to modularize programs by separating difficult tasks up, making the program easier to read, and can be called again later in a program if you need to use it. Here we see a method called total. This method is outside of the main method, but still in the class here. Now I'll go over the method. The first word is public. Public is an access modifier. You can use keywords such as public or private. Public means it can be accessed from anywhere in the program, while private is accessible only from its own class. There is also protected, which can only be accessed within its own package. Next is static, meaning that this method belongs only to this class and does not have to have an object created for it. Following that is the return type. Methods can return values. This one returns an int. If you needed a method that returns no value, you may use void. After that, we have the method name, which is total. And next are the parameters, the placeholders. When we call this method, we pass a value to the parameter. Parameters are also optional. You may have them empty. Finally, we have the method body, which contains all the statements it uses. The return statement passes back the value to the calling method. To call the method or invoke it, we simply use the method's name, total, plus a set of parentheses, plus any values we are passing that the method accepts. This method accepts two parameters. And as you can see, when we run it, upon calling total, we pass two numbers into total. The total method adds them and returns the sum, which is then displayed to the user. Now I'll be going over constructors. Constructors create an instance of a class, and Java requires a constructor for every object we create. The constructor must have the same name as the class it belongs to. Think of the scanner. When we create a scanner object, we create a new scanner object and it loads a default constructor upon creation even though we don't see it. But when we declare a class, we can add our own constructor for initializing an object. Let's look at our example. Here I've created two constructors. One is a default and the other is a parameterized constructor. This one is a default constructor. No parameters were given when max1 object was created, while the second object takes parameters that we give upon invoking. One important difference between constructors and methods is that constructors cannot return data and will not have a return type. But as you can see, we can have constructors with the same name as long as they do not have the same arguments. And when we run it, we can see each object gets made with its appropriate constructor and gives us the right results. One last thing I want to mention in this program here is scope. As you can see, I have my variables initialized outside of the main method and the constructors. This allows for all my methods and constructors to access this data. If I had this variable declared inside the main method, I cannot access them to use in my constructors or my other methods. This kind of restriction is a variable scope and defines where it can be used. So today we learned that methods are created to group together statements that we can call upon anytime in a program and can be used to modularize our program. We learned that constructors create an instance of a class and that we can create one to initialize an object. We also learned that scope restricts where a variable can be used in a program. Next time we'll be going over arrays, passing arrays to method, and multidimensional arrays. So until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.